This is courtesy of The Atlantic. The headline is this the secret to selling Joe Biden? And it profiles a lot of the same guy, Ben Wessel, who's also in the Washington Post article. It says here, Ben Wessel was nervous. Joe Biden had just won the Democratic nomination, and the youth-focused super PAC Wessel runs, Next Gen America, had to figure out how to persuade the generation of TikTok and trigger warnings to turn out to vote for a 77-year-old man best known for record players and malarkeys. So they're doing these focus groups to poll Biden's enthusiasm problem among young people. In the words of one Hispanic Gen Z participant, I honestly don't know enough about Biden to really form an opinion. Some of the messages Bauman tried on the group didn't perform very well. For instance, participants didn't like being told that Trump is so bad they simply must vote for Biden, even if they don't particularly want to. They needed positive reasons to do it, Bauman told me. The "you must stop Trump" strategy didn't work. Gee, I wonder if that message, I mean, I'm sure they paid this next-gen consulting morons to come up with this shit, but, like, do you think there's any chance that message will fucking saturate any of these morons who, like, are doubling down on just that exact strategy for hectoring young people?
No, because it's like, I mean, the point of that really isn't to get people to vote. I mean, it works well enough on like Xers and shit like that and people who already don't have to be sold it, but that is more just to, it's more just to like preach to the choir and and sort of paint non-voters with a broad brush that they're privileged and that they themselves won't bear the brunt of the Trump administration's excesses, even though, like, you know, non-voters are usually people who rightfully feel checked out and ignored by the political process. I don't think that's ever been like a cudgel to get people to do things as much as it is cope for Democrats themselves.
That's it. It's what they tell themselves. But the thing is, they're already bought in. They've already made the devil's bargain that they're going to vote for Democrats because they've decided that being realistic means that they have sacrificed any hope to break out of this. And this is the best we can ever hope for. And so the way that they can imbue that with any kind of meaning beyond, you know, just a grim pragmatism that then eventually turns into nihilism when you see how insufficient the Democratic Party is to doing anything to deal with any of the manifold fucking disasters we're currently in the middle of. The only way to stave off total nihilism is to convince yourself that the alternative is so horrifying that you have to do what you're doing. But that only works if you're already on board. If you're a non-voter who does not have that kind of weird, ritualized, visceral association with voting as like as a expression of their personal virtue, like liberals do, they don't fucking care.
And also, I think a lot of these guys, these sort of Democrat consultant types, I mean, it's just sort of they're filtering, as these people do, you know, or as human beings tend to do. They're filtering these responses and the things that they're looking for through their own perception. And I think the thing that they haven't really grappled with is they're like, they just don't remember the Obama presidency enough, and they need to know that Joe was there too. And I don't think these people have grappled with the fact that if you're talking about like young people turning off from politics and like in large numbers, or just not really seeing any hope in voting or any difference between the two parties, I mean, the Obama presidency was probably like the biggest driver of that, like that level of disillusionment and alienation imaginable. And
it's like, hey kids, remember when your mom woke you up in the middle of the night and she had you take all your stuff and put it in a couple of trash bags because the sheriff was coming to kick you out of your house? That was Joe Biden.
Yeah. Do they ever say the thing that Joe Biden supposedly did during Obama that young people are supposed to like? Or is it just like
Onion articles where he was epic?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, here's they get into what the strategy that does work, and this is pretty exceptional. The message that did work would spring from Wessel's mind, but he doesn't remember exactly how it came to him. Wessel had been talking to Gretchen Barton, a researcher at Olson Zaltman, a firm that studies what makes consumers and voters tick. Barton told him about a study she did of young voters. These voters, she found, had a rebellious hope in the face of overwhelming odds. When asked to describe what voting felt like...
Oh, God, take care of that.
Yeah, get rid of that.
It's the Simpsons pressing the independent thought alarm.
When asked to describe what voting felt like, One participant imagined Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games franchise. I feel like we're living in this kind of dystopia where elites are using us as pawns for their own benefit and people at the bottom are suffering, the participant told Barton and her colleagues. I identify with Katniss trying to give the people in my community a little more dignity and love and trying to make the world a better place. I feel like voting is an expression of this. Wessel thought back to the image of Katniss, a heroic underdog trying to defeat evil. I mean, the evil that she's trying to defeat, like, is you, Ben Wessel. It's the residents of Central City that she's trying to put an arrow through.
Yes.
But it goes here. He thought about how millennials had been kicked in the butt by 9/11, Hurricane Katrina, the Iraq War, the Great Recession, and the pandemic and current economic collapse. I mean, like 4 of those 6 things are like directly attributable to Joe Biden in one way or another. He goes, he thought about how, though many of the young people he knew liked Sanders better than Biden, others preferred Andrew Yang or Warren or Beto O'Rourke. It was pretty all over the place, he said. There wasn't just one person they expected to swoop in and save them. But here, he came up with what Next Gen calls the Democratic Avengers, after the Marvel movie featuring an ensemble of superheroes. The idea is that by voting for Biden, you're voting not just for him, you're voting for all of the Democrats, many of them cool and hip, that Biden will have in his orbit. Biden might borrow policies from Warren, for example, or have Sanders as an advisor. If he's elected, it won't just be Joe Biden, this message reads. Biden has pledged to build an administration filled with progressive leaders, experts, and activists from inside and outside the world of politics. I mean, it just look, they're not going to bother lying about supporting even the Green New Deal, even in principle. But what they will lie about is that, like, oh yeah, we're going to have AOC in the Biden administration, and I guess they're not dope. And they're not. I guess they're not gonna lie about it outright, but they're willing to. Like, the message that they're crafting to young people is to, like, heavily imply that, like, hey, you know, all those cool dope politicians that you like, Biden's bringing them along, and it's just like the Biden administration is going to be fucking like the cops that Rahm Emanuel helped get away with murder. Like they'll be filling out some positions. For Henry Kissinger and Cass Sustein, like that's
John
going to be
DuPont.
Yeah,
let's not forget him. They're going to get him out of jail, bring him back from life with Eldritch Magics.
Yo,
put him in charge of the U.S. Olympics team.
Yo, the dopest activists and politicians that you love, Ed Buck. Your favorite guy. Millennials love him. He has swag. Look at his bow ties. Take part in the Ed Buck challenge.
Yeah, to taking crystal meth until your heart explodes.
Yeah, can you survive a night at his house? So I guess here, this idea went over really well, according to Wessel and Bauman. In the focus groups, one white millennial said, the saving grace of this potential presidency would be his crew. If he actually chooses true progressives and activists, I will be surprised but happy to admit I misjudged him. The Democrat, I mean, look, if you seriously want to get me to say that I was wrong about Joe Biden and I'm going to fucking eat my words and, like, vote for him and encourage other people to vote for him, it would be him just announcing right now that Bernie Sanders will be, like, have a major, like, Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of State, something like that, like some big choice plum in his administration. I would probably get on board the Biden train if that was on offer, but, like, it's not. This is an illusion. It's just he in their head they're thinking, like, the Avengers are going to be in the Biden administration. We're going to get Black Widow and Hawkeye. They're going to be there in the administration. They're going to that's the sick crew of activists he's going to bring along with him.
Well, considering that Hawkeye and Black Widow are essentially like Gladio operatives, I would say that's accurate.
The Democratic Avengers has since become one of the group's most popular messages about Biden, according to its surveys, and the idea has made its way into ads. One features action movie music, a comic book font, and various Democrats stylized as cartoon characters. Bernie Sanders, it reads, supports a $15 minimum wage. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is champion of the Green New Deal. Joe Biden, meanwhile, is building the team that we want to run things. A similar theme has also made its way into an ad by Students for Ed Markey, another old guy who recently triumphed somewhat unexpectedly. Recently, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert made a loving send-up with a similar Avengers theme. I pointed out to Wessel that this message is exactly what conservative pundits say about a potential Biden presidency, that the aging moderate will be easily manipulated by more radical Democrats, such as Ocasio-Cortez and Sanders. He didn't seem concerned. The Republican Party is saying it's the Biden-Bernie agenda. Yeah, that's totally motivating for our young voters. Keep it up.
I can't wait for this this Avengers, this team of progressive superheroes to be announced the day after Biden wins, and it's like fucking Erskine Bowles in a mech suit.
Erskine Bowles will be there. Chris Coons. Fucking yeah.
Erskine Bowles.
Erskine smoking bowls, man. Dude, that guy's cool. So there we go. If the Avengers models works beyond focus groups and the occasional YouTube video, it could suggest that young people, or at least Democrats, or at least young Democrats, are actually more interested in liberal policies than they are in charismatic candidates. Rather than get fired up about Biden's personality, 20-somethings might thrill to a coterie of technocrats who have concrete proposals to change the way the country works. Brent Cohen, the executive director of Generation Progress Action, another youth advocacy group, told me that he's not worried about the Biden enthusiasm gap because young people vote based on policy. And he and the other Democratic strategist believes that when it comes to policy, the choice for young voters is clear.
Yeah, just huff Freon until you suffocate your brain. That's the choice. If you're a young person in this country.
But like, okay, so like they're saying that, you know, it's not really about personality. Joe Biden's, he's an old guy, but like, it's not about that. It's not about his story. It's about policy. But none of these either of these articles mentioned a single policy that he would be spearheading as part of his administration.
Yeezys for all. That's it.
If anything, I mean, the indications that they're giving about what their administration will look like should they win the election is that they're already saying, like right now, they're saying, look, folks, the cupboard's bare. There's just no more money. We're not going to be able to do anything big.
Gonna have to tighten those belts.
Time to tighten those belts. I mean, it's going to be fucking austerity, and it's going to be like, yeah, like they're going to do a version. If they do anything at all about global warming, I think, like as Chris has said, it's just going to be like Obamacare for the environment.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Cap and trade, baby. Can't wait for a fucking giant speculative bubble to burst on people selling fake cap and trade waivers while the entire state of California bursts into flames simultaneously.
I mean, it's once again just so fucking depressing. I mean, like it's just like when you read shit about this, about like, hey, like the light bulb went off in my head when a voter said, I feel like Katniss Everdeen because I'm an oppressed subject of a tyrannical centralized state. And they're like, oh, well, the little light bulb went off in my head when I just thought, hey, what if Joe Biden was like also like Katniss Everdeen? And it's just like, no, like the thing the young person is connecting with there is like the fact that our government randomly selects children from her community to be offered up as some kind of ritual sacrifice for this god of the marketplace, and she'd like to fight that in some way possible, and that's what voting means to her. And they're like, no, Joe Biden's like he's both the rugged, handsome guy, but he's also kind of like the cute, sensitive one that she ends up with at the end.
Yeah, he's gonna take off his glasses and reveal how hot he was. he's gonna put in his dentures and be like, damn, Joe, looking hot.
Didn't know how fine he was.